I'm joined in studio by Gauteng Education Department spokesperson Steve Mabona. Mr. Mabona, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, some passengers were sharing on Twitter this morning how they'd been waiting for transport since 5 a.m. and a lot of matrics were tweeting that they were worried about getting to school on time for their matric exams. How have commuters been affected? I mean, surely now you can gauge, because exams usually start around 9 and go on until about 12. So you must be able to gauge now how many people were able to get to their exams on time, write their exams. What's the situation?
Thanks very much. It's actually, we are happy, we are delighted that the impact thereof did not affect us that much, because we can report that about 20 learners have been redirected to different centers to write there, and a handful of learners did not managed to be on time in the sense that they arrived probably an hour later. Those ones were also managed, those that went to their centers. And we can safely say the impact thereof, it did frustrate the learners before they arrived at school, because most of them, those who arrived late, they were late with 30 minutes, 45 minutes, just before an hour, which they were then allocated, more time. To say if you arrive at that time, you have, extra time, and the chief invigilators will then manage that process and make sure that they don't shortchange them their time that is allocated extra to them, because they might have started later than the others.
All right, so the contingency plan is they get more time, or they go to these centers that have been set up for them?
We've been saying parents must assist us, and we want to thank parents, those who made alternative arrangements, and those that were calling just to verify that can they let their children home, or they must release them to go to school. And we were very clear in the morning to say make sure that at least they arrive at school. Even if they are late, we'll have a way on how we're going to be managing them. But fortunately, those that were late were managed accordingly, and those that could not reach their centers, they then went to the alternative centers, and they were accommodated there. We've even have one learner who's writing in Mpumalanga, so we'll see on how we manage that process, but she managed to write there. So we are actually delighted that we don't have absenteeism as a result of the strike.
All right.
We do have absenteeism, but reasons are not as per the strike thereof.
Yeah, well, I was just going to ask you, how do you ensure that those that have maybe been late or have been absent have been because of the strike, and they haven't sort of taken advantage of the situation to kind of skip an exam if they perhaps don't feel too prepared for it? According
to the preliminary report that we have, we don't have an absenteeism as a result of the strike. And hence we are actually hopeful that the report at the end of the day will then still confirm, that up to so far we have no absenteeism, and we are happy. And we just want to put an emphasis that anyone who's thinking about facilitating an activity like this one that is disrupting us, they need to be mindful of the fact that logistically it's a nightmare for us, because it means we must make sure that our papers are at the centers way before time, which is a risk in a way, because remember, these papers are treated as money. The way we transport them, the way we make sure that we safeguard them. So we don't need a space where they are probably at a certain time for a certain period, meanwhile they are saved under conditions that probably not comfortable. So it's a logistical nightmare, it's a safety risk. It's a risk that is, it questions the integrity of our examination, because we don't want to compromise the integrity of the examination. Hence we said the chief invigilators, they need to be mindful of the fact that the integrity thereof must still be maintained.
And you expect things to return to normal from tomorrow?
Well, definitely we expect things to return to normal, and we encourage those that are still facilitating this kind of disruptions. We know the organizers of the so-called Black Monday, they are also working on another march we want to appeal to them to say it's a disruption that there's a dire impact to us as the Department of Education. And we appeal that people really need to respect this time. This is the last leg of their grade 12. They've been in the schooling environment for so many years, 12 years to be exact. So we need to give them space to ride in peace. They don't need to focus on anxiety that one might not arrive at school, one might arrive late, and all those unnecessary things.
Yeah, the stress of writing an exam is enough. But on that, the Taxi Association has said it's not their problem if school children don't get to school on time, and that they would like your support from the Education Department to kind of push their demands. How do you feel about that?
No, we will say it's their problem when their children are not at school, their children are not writing, because these are our children. They do have children there as well. So if we're going to have a impact that is negative or that is dire to our own children and say we have demands now, which short-circuit the future of our children, the future of the country. Because when we say learners must not be certified in terms of your grade 12, what are we saying to them? What is it that they must do? The economy now, it's at a point where we don't need people who don't have necessary certification, who are not educated. So what are we saying? How are we going to have programmers, people who will be then assisting us to make sure that we probably produce taxis in this country? Because we need to produce things here. Now, if we don't have learners that are empowered, learners that are given that space to think about being entrepreneurs, being producers, we will always rely on outside world to procure, to an extent of procuring your Tupperware.
We'll leave it there. Steve Mabona, spokesperson for the Gauteng Education Department, thanks so much for coming in.
Welcome.